Hello and welcome back to the A Woman's Soul Restored podcast. I am Latonia Y. Hendry. And first of all, just let me say thank you for the feedback from last week's episode. It was my first video podcast, and some outlets still did audio only. You had to do a little extra to get the video. But for those of you that did hear the episode, whether via audio or video, I just appreciate that people were and always are hurting after the holidays, whether it be from grief or just the overload of things you have to do during the holidays. And that was addressed in that podcast, in that episode. And I'm thankful for feedback because feedback gives me room to grow. It helps me grow and it helps me to critique myself. But I'm also thankful for the people that said, yeah, I fall in this category. This is helping me out to realize that I need to see that I need help, that I shouldn't take everything on myself, and that I'm hurting, but I don't know how to reach out. I don't know who to ask. I don't know how to let family know that I'm hurting. So I'm thankful for that feedback on that episode, and I'm striving forward again to move forward with this week's episode. I have a little hoarseness in my voice, so please excuse the raspiness, but I will try to speak plain enough where you could disregard the raspiness and just hear the totality of what this episode is about. So, doing reading some emails and people saying that they were glad that I was back and applauding being willing to step out from behind the shadows and behind just audio only and to do a video. I was thinking about what we do with what people think about us, and primarily what we think about ourselves, what we do with the thoughts that we have. Sometimes those thoughts keep us up at night. Sometimes those thoughts overshadow any good that we do because of negativity. So today we'll be talking about the demons inside, how to negate negativity. The demons inside, how to negate negativity. This is a hard one because it's hard to go inside and see ourselves. It's hard to examine, do a little self-examination. In the in my organization, in my nonprofit, this is something we do every quarter. We do a self-examination. And I have a theme with it, and this helps us to maybe look at some areas that we would not typically look at, but to really examine ourselves, we have to look at those spaces that are deep, those spaces that we don't want to touch or don't want others to know about. We have to look at those spaces in order to examine who we are as people, who we are as women, because we know as women we are carriers. We are carriers of children. We are carriers of hurt. We're carriers of joy. We're also carriers of pain. So inside of us resides a space, a place where we bottle our feelings and we don't address them. We don't deal with them. We bottle them and we move on to the next thing. And then when that becomes heavy, we bottle it, we overshadow it, then we move on to the next thing. But the problem with that is we continue to bottle and overshadow and move until eventually, that's when you see people have nervous breakdowns, people have suffer with depression, women, which out of the depression group is 79 to 80%. We run high with the chances of suffering a depression episode, suffering from stress-related illnesses, because we bottle things in, because we think in bottling the things in that we're protecting people, we're protecting others, but also protecting our own feelings, protecting our own space. We feel if we just push it over here somewhere, push it down deep, that we'll be okay. But the thing with that is we're not okay. We have to get that stuff out. We have to realize that The more we bottle in, we run out of space because we only have a certain amount of space to put our feelings, our emotions, negative and positive. We have to have a release or outlet to let that stuff go. So how do we do that? How do we conquer those demons of telling yourself that you're not good enough? How do you conquer those demons of maybe you did do something wrong, maybe you did tell a lie, and accepting that and owning it and realizing, yeah, I did something real foul, I did something real messed up, but I have to deal with it. I have to address it. I have to go to, if it's another person that you hurt, I have to go to that person and talk to them. Or if it's yourself that you hurt, if you stayed in a relationship too long, something you should have been got out of, but because you was trying to give it the benefit of the doubt, you hid your own feelings and your own emotions just to stay. And when you did get out, you realized that you did too much. You stayed too long. How do you cope with that? How do you sleep at night knowing that maybe you were in a abusive relationship that ended up affecting your children? Your children grew up in that, and now they are some kids that grow up in abuse, they shut down and they become emotionless. They become standoffish, or some become hoarders of making people love them, making people accept them for whatever facade that they have built up around themselves. But children that have grown up in abuse sometimes become abusers. Sometimes they don't know how to address certain situations. Sometimes they begin to bottle stuff as well because when they're younger, they couldn't say anything. When a child goes through abuse, 90% of the time, it's isolated to that house. It's isolated between them and that person. And if they wasn't abused themselves, or if they grew up around their mother being abused, or even a mother abusing a father, they become reclusive, being afraid all the time, being anxious, being nervous, because they don't know when that lash is going to happen from the people that's closest to them. So then begins a resentment about, why am I like this? Why can't I just be happy like everybody else? Why do I have to hold things inside of me that I really want to let go? Can I release it? How can I let it go? Some of us are adults that's being hurt by our children, not physically but emotionally. How they address us, how they speak to us, how they talk to us. Now, I'm going to say, fortunately, for my children's sake, I don't have that problem because I am a mother of 3 adult children. And if they feel that if I'm saying something to them that later I may need to go back to apologize for, because I can't treat them like, we as mothers and parents of adult children cannot treat our adult children like they're still children, even though they're our children. And we may always look at them as our children, but we cannot treat them like, if they're in their 30s, 40s, we can't treat them like they in their teenage years or whatever. We have to progress, but still let them know that we are the parent. And that's the relationship I have with my children. We joke, we laugh, they can come and talk to me about anything, but I'm always mom. I'm always their mother. And I want that to always stay in place because there's a respect level that comes with that. Now, there's some parents that don't have that with their children. And that could be a stressor. That could be one of those situations where you may want that relationship with your child, but you don't know where to begin. You don't know where it started going wrong. You don't know how to figure out how to reach that child or reach those children to let them know that you honestly love them and you want to start over. You want to start fresh. Parenting does not come with a handbook, unfortunately. It doesn't come with instructions. We learn through trial and error. And I made a lot of mistakes as a parent because I was a young mom. I had my first child at 16. I had the next 2 at 25 and 26. So my boys are 13 months apart. that was hard. We didn't have a vehicle. We struggled. I worked at fast food restaurants trying to make ends meet. And I wasn't always, I want to say, accepting of myself and my circumstances. So I didn't take it out on my children. Always wanted the best for them. I always tried to make light of bad situations. One year I even we got together before years, decades before I started DIYing. We made our own Christmas tree. And we made it with string popcorn, and we just, the four of us did it together. I didn't have the money to get a tree. I didn't have the money to get gifts for them. So instead of saying, well, mama didn't have them, I don't have the money, because I worked fast food and they didn't grow up with things being cut off in the house. We were going to have lights. We were going to have water. The bills were going to get paid. Sometimes that took all of my money. So how can you explain to children that, yeah, well, at a certain age you can. But when they're little, they don't understand that there's no gifts under the tree. There's nothing really holiday festive food to eat. How can you explain that? So I've always had a creative mind to come up with things to keep my children entertained. And one year we did make our own tree, and I took a I didn't get I didn't get a turkey. I got a whole chicken, and we seasoned it and we baked it like we would a turkey. I got the stovetop stuffing instead of doing the traditional dressing, because I'm old school. I make stuff from scratch. But the cornmeal and just all that extra stuff would have been extra groceries that I would have had to spend money for. So, but they didn't see that. A lot of stuff I went through in the house, being a single mom, trying to figure things out, being a young single mom, working a job that the only thing made it interesting was the people I worked with. Same routine every day, flipping burgers, taking orders, what have you. But it was a job, and it was an honest job, and I was able to provide for my children the essential needs. But two Christmases, we had to do things a little differently, and I explained it to them that, okay, we're going to step out the box this Christmas. We're going to do things a little differently. And sometimes I do tear up when I talk about those years, because we were happy and we were together, but they weren't always easy. It's not easy being a single parent, single mother. And that's why my heart goes out to single mothers, because it's really not easy. It's hard. And as the years go on, it gets harder and harder. So my heart is always sensitive to the struggles of single parents who are doing it, who are working, who are providing for their children. All three of my children have different fathers, and their fathers wasn't always in their lives. My daughter's father passed when she was 14, but even before then, it was later that he started spending time with her. He moved from Savannah to Brunswick, and he started getting her on the summer, during the summer. See, when you do audio, people don't see you till they might hear you sniff, but they don't see you when you cry. And I'm an emotional person as I've gotten older. It doesn't take much for me to start tearing up. But as I was saying, my daughter's father, he didn't do much for her until she got older. And he wanted to have a positive relationship with her because that was his only child. And if you want to know why that was his only child, you have to go back to the beginning of the podcast, or even get the book, Issues of the Male Heart, When His Issues Become Your Issues. That was my first book about my early years, about my relationships, and how my relationships with the males I was in became my issues as well when they had issues. But he didn't do much until she got older, and my older son's father has never done anything for him. He considers my husband his dad, which is my youngest son father, but he treats all my children the same. And I'm thankful that I ended up with someone that loved me and also loved the two children I had before we had one together. But when my youngest son was younger, we were not together. We was not together. We did not get along too well back then, but he paid his child support and he did right. When his family would come get the younger one, they would get my older son as well. Sometimes I just wanted to keep him home. But it's always been a negotiable relationship with me and my husband, current husband. We've been married 22 years now, but those early years when it was just me, I carried a lot of hurt and pain on the inside because of some choices I made, because I had three children by three different men, because my childhood was rough and I didn't know how to deal with it. But I didn't want to extend that to my children. I wanted the cycle to stop because unfortunately abuse was a part of the women in my family history. I witnessed my grandmother getting abused. She would tell us stories about how her mother, which would have been my great grandmother, was abused. My mother passed. She died from domestic violence. So there's a generational curse there of abuse in my family with the women. And I wanted to break that. I wanted to start something new, first of all, raise a daughter that was strong enough to not stay in a abusive relationship. I taught her how to be strong, how to depend on herself, not to lean on somebody, but to learn what you need to learn so that you could be stable. So when you have your children, I have your child, because she only has one, and she had her later in life. She was 34 when she got pregnant with my granddaughter. So first to teach my daughter, and she's the oldest. So to teach her to be a stable woman, to be a confident woman, to know that you don't have to take anything that you don't want to take. Don't stay in something that you don't want to stay in. And then for my boys, to teach them how to be respectable of everyone and how to treat women like how you would want your mother to get treated. So how I raised my children was twofold. I taught them and then I showed them through my own actions and through how I lived my life when they were old enough to pay attention to what mama was doing. So, like I said, it wasn't always perfect, but I was always real with them. I was always honest. And when they were old enough to understand things, I would have conversations with them about why I did things the way I did things or why this is going the way it's going. Because I didn't want them to be too sheltered in life to where I'm not going to always be around. How are you going to fend for yourselves? So, yeah, I do a lot for my children now because I didn't have that grandparent to help me with my children when they were younger. But I know they appreciate it. They tell me they appreciate it and they show me they appreciate how I extend myself for them now. And that extends to my grandchildren, my granddaughter and my grandson, that they are teaching them how to treat Duchess. Always respect Duchess. Always do what she says. And no lip back and no talking back and no side eyes and all that because they're six. And, little ones have a tendency to, roll their eyes and stuff. And I'm thankful that my son talks to his son and my daughter talks to her daughter. My oldest son has no children yet. He's just big uncle. But how did I get past those years of beating myself up about the choices I made? How did I get past holding those things inside and being around people that was negative as well? Because that kept me in a place of negativity too. The supposed friends I was around, some of them weren't really friends, but I stayed in that familial relationship because I knew them. I didn't want to stretch out to meet new people, so I stayed in toxicity because it was with people I knew. And that's a lot of where a lot of us are at. We stay with the familiar. We stay with what we know. But in the midst of staying there, you subject your own self to inbreeding. those feelings that are around you. So you can't expect positivity if you're around negative people. If those people are always complaining and always got something to say about everything, you're going to catch yourself doing the same thing. So we have to be able to face and address our situations. We have to be able to address those problems. And for sure, know that God is with us in the midst of, even when we feel like we don't deserve it. He is with us. But understanding us to know that that same forgiveness that we give to others, we have to forgive ourselves as well. That's that same thing when we say we love others, but we don't see anything lovable in ourselves. You can't love other people if you don't truly love yourself. It's the same thing with forgiveness. You can't forgive other people if you're holding the whole world and the shoulders on your shoulders. If you're imploding with so many feelings and emotions towards yourself, how can you honestly forgive others if you can't even look in the mirror and face yourself and say, yeah, I messed up, but I'm worthy of my own forgiveness. I'm worthy of correcting what I did wrong, going to that person and addressing the person that you did wrong and just saying, I'm sorry. Now, sometimes they'll accept it, sometimes they won't, but you need to do it. You need to cleanse yourself. You need to do what you need to do for your own sake, for your own sanity, so that you're not depressed and have all these things inside of you, so much so that you're running out of room. And then you implode with depression. You implode with stress. You lashing out at people because you got so much inside of you and you just don't know how to deal with it. Deal with it head on. Deal with it straightforward. Deal with it, and you have to address it because you can't keep carrying all that weight. We were not created to create chaos in our own lives. We're to be stable, peaceful in our personal lives and surround ourselves with that. And not saying that you're never going to run into a negative person, because negativity is in our environment, is in our society, is in our workspaces, is in the people we deal with. So we're going to deal with negative situations. But just because we deal with negative situations, we don't have to bring that on us. We don't have to make that a part of our makeup and a part of who we are. You deal with that situation and then you keep being you and you move on. You keep it moving. So forgive yourself of that lie you told. Honestly, it's told. It's nothing that you could do about it. It's because when you tell a lie, we all know you got to keep telling it. You have to, and it's not going to be the same. So it's best not to tell the lie to begin with, because the truth always comes out. But once you tell that lie, and if it's already out there, you have to forgive yourself, because there's nothing you could do about it. Once it's out there, once you've told it and realize you made a mistake and you should not have done that, go back and reevaluate. Go back and see what you can do to make it better. You can't change the lie, but you can address the lie, and you can address it to either the person that you lied to, but primarily address it in yourself to see, why did you lie? Why did you steal? Why was the central essence of what you did? Why did you do it? Why was it you felt the need to lie instead of tell the truth? Yeah, it's consequences sometimes when we tell the truth, but when the truth comes out, there's delayed consequences. So you have to forgive yourself of those things that you may have done when you were younger, or even not so young. You did something yesterday and you're in your 60s, 50s, 40s, but you can't hold on to that stuff, because it will begin to eat at you. And the next thing you do, if you do that and pile that on top of the stuff that's already there, then that begins to eat at you. You keep holding stuff and you keep covering stuff and you keep covering everybody, and then you're trying to protect your own feelings and emotions, and you're just out there just trying to do you. Just trying to do the best you that you can do. But in that we're making mistakes while we're trying to do us, while we're trying to keep our sanctity sanctified, while we're trying to keep our peaceful place peaceful. Sometimes we make errors in the midst of doing that. Sometimes we make grave mistakes when we're trying to protect our children and we end up subjecting them to more harm than good. But the thing about grace is we have to show ourselves grace. We have to show ourselves mercy. We have to forgive those things that we done in error and not hold on to them. Because once you forgive yourself, you use it as a teaching tool. You learn from it and what not to do the next time. But you can't stay focused on that thing. You can't sleep at night. You know you've done such and such, but it's such a burden on you, and you don't know what to do with it. So the thing to do with it is to address it. We can't just keep burying stuff. Like we got a big graveyard with just our name on it, and we buried everything negative that we've done, every bad thing that we've done, every negative thing that we've done. We placed it in that graveyard, and each of them have a different headstone, and we haven't done anything to change the behavior. We haven't done anything to change the pattern of correcting, self-correcting before anybody can correct us. Yes, we all need correcting sometimes, but it's best to self-correct. See your own error before somebody points it out, because sometimes it's harder to receive it when somebody else points it out. And also sometimes it's harder to accept it. And well, accept and receive basically is the same thing. But then we start looking at the person negative because they brought something to our attention that we should have caught ourselves. So we have to be willing to be able to just look at us, look at ourselves, and admit that error that you did, admit that mistake, and then move on. Move on, address it, forgive yourself. If you offended anybody, ask them to forgive you, but you got to move on from it. You got to grow from it. You got to learn from it, but you can't let it consume you, because once it starts consuming you, it's like a plague and it will eat you up. So I hope that we're able to look at those demons inside and address that negativity at the core, at the root. And the root is us. And if it's something that you see yourself that you're in a pattern in, then we definitely need to address that. We definitely need to know that we are good enough to set a new foundation for ourselves. We are worthy of honoring who we are as women. We don't have to be a carrier of negativity. We don't have to be a carrier of the things in our past, because they're in our past. We have to let them go, because if we don't, it'll end up not letting us go, if that makes sense. You can hold on to something for so long until when you're ready to let it go, you can't, because it's become a part of your life now. It's a part of you. And it's harder to get rid of something that you have carried for years and years and years. And then you decide to, okay, I'm ready to release it. I'm ready to let it go. But yet it's not willing to let you go. So we have to be careful about the things we hold on the inside of us, about the things that we're apprehensive to let go because of fear, because of retribution, because of um, thinking that people are going to hate us or not love us. Sometimes those people we're trying to save face with already don't have a face for us anyway. So we have to stay prayed up. We have to keep our guards up. And we have to know that we are worthy of forgiving ourselves. We have to address the demons inside. We have to address the things that plague us and then deal with it and then let it go in Jesus' name. So if you would like to send an email, send it to a woman's soul restored at gmail.com. Once again, I'm having some issues with the website. I haven't loaded the last episode, and I'm probably going to load this one and the one from last week, or a little later in the week. But It's a woman's soul. It's Live Life Now, lovelifenow.net. www.livelifenow.lovelifenow.net. And the Facebook page is A Woman's Soul Restored. So I hope this week I was able to help you get on the road to cleanse, to detox yourself without that physical act of, taking something to detox, but taking something internally, taking something um, within your mind and your spirit and your soul to help you negate that negativity, to help you get rid of those demons that think they got you by the cusp, that they don't want to let you go. But it's time. It's time for it's time for your soul to be restored. For this week, this is Latonia Y. Hendry. Have a blessed week. And remember, it's never too late for your soul to be restored. Have a blessed week.